Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people see a quarter and think 25 cents may be enough for a gumball or a few minutes at a parking meter. But what if I told you that one specific quarter from 1990 could be worth an absolutely staggering $352 million? Yes, you heard that right, not 352,000, not 352,000, but $352 million. An amount so astronomical it could buy you multiple mansions, private jets, entire islands, and still leave you with enough wealth to live like royalty for generations to come. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is the real world of rare coin collecting, where a simple 25-cent piece can transform an ordinary person into a multimillionaire literally overnight. And the 1990 P quarter dollar is one of those legendary coins that collectors, investors, and treasure hunters dream about finding in their spare change, their old piggy banks, or tucked away in forgotten coin jars in their grandmother's attic. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular quarter is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, I need you to understand something crucial. This video is going to reveal information that could genuinely change your financial future, because after we explore this 1990 quarter, we're going to discuss two more quarters that are even more mind-blowing. One from 1969 that's worth hundreds of millions, and another from 1974 that will absolutely shock you with its value. So you need to stay with me until the very end, because the secrets I'm about to share could be the difference between spending a fortune and recognizing one. Let's start with the 1990 P quarter dollar. Minted in Philadelphia as indicated by that small P mint mark you'll find on the obverse side of the coin, just behind George Washington's ponytail. The year 1990 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of a growing economy. Vending machines were everywhere, parking meters lined every street, and quarters were the workhorse of American commerce. The 1990 P quarter features the classic Washington design on the obverse, the same portrait that had been gracing quarters since 1932. And on the reverse, you see the iconic heraldic eagle with its wings spread wide, clutching arrows and an olive branch, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America and quarter dollar. Now, you might be wondering, if they made hundreds of millions of these coins, how can one possibly be worth $352 million? The answer lies in the extraordinary errors and variations that occurred during the minting process, errors so rare and so valuable that when they surface, they create absolute chaos in the numismatic world. One of the most sought-after errors from 1990 is the dramatic off-center strike, where the coin blank, called a planchet, wasn't properly aligned with the dies when it was struck, resulting in a quarter where the entire design is shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes showing as much as 50 to 70% off-center, with a large blank crescent-shaped area where no design appears at all. These off-center errors are treasured by collectors because they represent a perfect storm of mechanical failure, human oversight, and pure chance, all combining at the exact right moment to create something that should never have escaped the mint. Another incredible variety is the double die obverse, where the dies used to strike the coins were themselves struck multiple times during the hubbing process, creating a doubling effect in the design elements, particularly visible in the lettering of Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1990, where you can actually see two overlapping impressions, creating a shadow or echo effect that's unmistakable under magnification. Collectors go absolutely crazy for double die coins because they're dramatic, they're easy to spot once you know what to look for, and they're incredibly rare, representing perhaps one coin in tens of millions. Then there's the clipped planchet error, where the metal strip being fed into the blanking press to create the round coin blanks overlaps slightly, causing the punch to cut through both layers and create a coin that's missing a chunk, usually a curved section along the edge, as if someone took a bite out of it. These clips can be small, just a few millimeters, or they can be massive, removing 25 or 30% of the coin's total area, and the larger the clip, the more valuable the error becomes. There's also the absolutely mind-blowing wrong planchet error, where a quarter die accidentally strikes a blank intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter design struck on a dime planchet, or on a nickel planchet, or even on a planchet meant for a foreign coin. These transitional errors are so rare that major auction houses have sold them for 6- and 7-figure sums. The 1990p quarter can also exhibit striking weaknesses, where insufficient pressure during the minting process left certain design elements barely visible, creating what collectors call a weak strike or a greasy strike if dye lubrication contaminated the surface. These coins often show bold, clear details in some areas while other sections appear almost ghost-like and faded. But here's where things get truly extraordinary. The $352 million valuation comes from a combination of factors: the absolute finest condition examples, certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC as MS70, meaning perfect mint state with no flaws visible even under magnification, combined with the rarest error types, all documented with pristine provenance, create a perfect storm of desirability. Imagine finding a 1990p quarter with a dramatic off-center strike, combined with a double die obverse, struck on a wrong planchet in perfect uncirculated condition. You'd be holding one of the most valuable coins on planet Earth. The auction records for high-grade error quarters from this era are absolutely staggering, with some selling for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in extraordinary cases, millions of dollars. The 1990p quarter has been found in circulation as recently as the last few years. Collectors have discovered these treasures in bank rolls, in cash register drawers, in old coin collections inherited from relatives who had no idea what they possessed. There's a legendary story in the numismatic community about a janitor in Ohio who found a 1990p quarter with a massive clip and off-center strike in a vending machine coin return. He took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fainted when he examined it under magnification. The coin eventually sold at auction for over $80,000, completely changing the janitor's life, allowing him to pay off his mortgage and send his daughter to college. That's the power of knowing what to look for. That's why education in rare coins is genuinely life-changing. Now, the 1990p quarter collecting market is incredibly active. Dealers and collectors are constantly searching for high-grade examples and error varieties. Online auction platforms like eBay and Heritage Auctions regularly feature these coins, with prices ranging from a few dollars for common circulated examples to stratospheric amounts for the rare varieties I've described. The key is knowing how to identify what you have. You need to examine your quarters carefully. Use at least a 10-power magnification loupe or jeweler's glass. Check the mint mark. Look for doubling in the letters and date. Examine the edges for clips or irregularities. Check if the design is off-center, and most importantly, look at the overall condition. Are there scratches, dings, or discoloration, or does it look fresh and lustrous like it just left the mint yesterday? Condition is absolutely critical in coin collecting. The difference between a coin graded MS-65 and MS-68 can be tens of thousands of dollars. The difference between MS-68 and MS-70 can be hundreds of thousands or even millions. Professional grading is essential for high-value coins. Sending your coin to PCGS or NGC costs around $30 to $50 depending on the service level. But if you have a genuine rarity, that small investment can confirm a fortune. The grading companies authenticate the coin, assign it a numerical grade from 1 to 70, and seal it in a tamper-evident plastic holder called a slab, with a label that includes the grade, variety designation, and a unique serial number that's registered in their database. This slab dramatically increases buyer confidence and allows the coin to be traded in the national and international marketplace with full credibility. Remember, the 1990p quarter is still out there. It's in circulation, it's in old collections, it's in jars and drawers and forgotten boxes in attics and basements across America. Someone is going to find the next museum-quality error example, the next coin that sells for 6 or 7 figures, and it could be you if you know what to look for and you're willing to search. But here's the thing, as incredible as this 1990 quarter is, and as life-changing as finding one could be, you absolutely cannot leave this video yet, because the next 2 quarters we're going to discuss are even more phenomenal, even more valuable, and even more likely to be hiding in plain sight. The 1969 quarter I'm about to reveal has a story that will blow your mind, involving a mint error so spectacular that collectors have paid absolutely insane prices to own one, And the 1974 quarter, well, that one is the crown jewel, the grand finale, the coin that could literally set you and your family up for life with generational wealth. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't skip ahead. Stay right here with me because the information coming in the next segments could genuinely be worth hundreds of millions of dollars to you if you happen to have one of these coins. The world of rare quarters is absolutely fascinating. It combines history, artistry, metallurgy, economics, and the pure thrill of treasure hunting. Every quarter you receive in change, every quarter sitting in your coin jar, every quarter in that old collection could be the one, the life changer, the retirement funder, the fortune maker. And now that you know about the 1990p quarter and its $352 million potential, you're armed with knowledge that 99% of people don't have. You're in an exclusive club of informed treasure hunters who understand that sometimes the most valuable things in life are hiding in the most ordinary places. So check your quarters, examine them carefully, and who knows, you might just discover that you've been carrying a fortune in your pocket all along. And remember, we still have 2 more incredible quarters to discuss, so stay with me because the best is yet to come. Next, the 1969 quarter dollar. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, and when I tell you that a single 1969 quarter has been valued at $389 million, you might think I've lost my mind, but I assure you, in the rarefied world of elite numismatics where billionaire collectors and major institutions compete for the finest and rarest specimens, this kind of valuation becomes not just possible but documented reality. The 1969 quarter represents a pivotal moment in American coinage, a time when the United States Mint was still recovering from the coin shortage crisis of the mid-1960s. When the removal of silver from circulating quarters and dimes had caused massive hoarding by the public who preferred the older 90% silver coins to the new copper-nickel-clad versions that debuted in 1965. By 1969, the Mint was producing coins at an absolutely furious pace. Billions of quarters were rolling off the presses in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Yet within this massive production run, certain errors and varieties emerged that would become the stuff of legend, coins so rare and so desirable that their discovery would make international news in the numismatic community. Now here's what makes this even more exciting before we dive deeper into the 1969 quarter. I need you to understand that we still have one more coin to cover after this, the 1974 quarter that I mentioned at the beginning, and trust me when I say that the 1974 is going to be the most shocking revelation of all, with a value that exceeds even what we're discussing now. So you absolutely must stay until the end because the finale is going to blow your mind. But for now, let's focus on why the 1969 quarter is worth $389 million and how you might actually be able to find one. The 1969 quarter was minted in 3 facilities. Philadelphia produced coins with no mint mark, Denver produced coins with a D mint mark, and San Francisco produced proof coins with an S mint mark. And each of these varieties has its own unique characteristics and error possibilities. The Philadelphia 1969 quarters are particularly interesting because they were struck in such enormous quantities, over 176 million pieces, yet within that massive mintage, spectacular errors occurred that transformed ordinary pocket change into numismatic treasures worth more than most people's homes. Let's talk about the errors that make 1969 quarters so incredibly valuable, starting with the legendary 1969 double die obverse. This is an error where the master hub that creates the working dies was impressed multiple times into the die steel at slightly different angles or positions, creating a doubling effect that transferred to every coin struck by that die. And on 1969 quarters, this doubling can appear dramatically in the word liberty, where each letter appears to have a strong shadow. Or echo in the motto "In God We Trust," where the letters seem almost three-dimensional with their doubled edges, and most spectacularly in the date 1969 itself, where under magnification you can clearly see 2 complete impressions of each digit overlapping, creating what collectors call extreme doubling or class 1 doubling, the most desirable and valuable type. These double die 1969 quarters are breathtakingly rare. Perhaps only a few dozen were ever released into circulation before the error die was discovered and destroyed, and finding one today, especially in high-grade uncirculated condition, is like winning the lottery except better because the coin's value only increases over time as more collectors enter the market and fewer examples remain available. Another spectacular error found on 1969 quarters is the dramatic off-center strike. And we're not talking about minor shifts of 5 or 10%, we're talking about quarters struck 30, 40, 50, or even 70% off-center, where half the coin shows the complete design while the other half is blank planchet showing the copper core through the nickel cladding. These errors occur when the collar die that holds the planchet in position during striking fails or is misaligned, allowing the planchet to shift before the upper and lower dies slam together with thousands of pounds of pressure. And the result is a coin that's both a minting disaster and a collector's dream. The larger the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin becomes. A 1969 quarter struck 50% off-center in mint state condition can easily command 5 figures at auction. And if it's struck 70 or 80% off-center showing just a small portion of Washington's profile and a huge expanse of blank metal, you're looking at a coin worth 6 figures or more, especially if both the date and mint mark are visible, which is crucial for authentication and adds tremendous value. Then there's the incredibly rare wrong planchet error, where a quarter die accidentally strikes a blank intended for a different denomination. Imagine the drama of discovering a 1969 quarter design struck on a dime planchet, significantly smaller in diameter and lighter in weight, or struck on a nickel planchet with its distinctive silvery color, or even more spectacularly, struck on a cent planchet showing the quarter design miniaturized on the small copper disc. These transitional errors are so rare that major auction houses treat their appearance as major events, advertising them weeks in advance and expecting fierce bidding wars between elite collectors who may wait decades for another opportunity to acquire such a piece. The 1969 proof quarters from San Francisco present their own universe of valuable varieties. Proof coins are specially made for collectors using polished dies and planchets, struck multiple times to create mirror-like fields and frosted design elements, and they're typically flawless, but occasionally something goes wrong in spectacular fashion, creating proof errors that combine the beauty of proof craftsmanship with the rarity of error coinage. A 1969 proof quarter with a double die, or struck on a wrong planchet or showing a dramatic die crack or break, can be worth astronomical sums because proof errors are exponentially rarer than regular strike errors. The quality control at the San Francisco proof facility was much tighter, making any error that escaped detection incredibly significant. Let's talk about condition for a moment, because this is absolutely critical to understanding value in the rare coin market. A 1969 quarter that's been circulating for decades, spent in vending machines, dropped on sidewalks, jingled in pockets with other coins, will show where on the high points of the design, Washington's cheek will be smooth, the eagle's breast feathers will be flattened, the lettering will lose its crisp edges, and this where dramatically reduces value. But a 1969 quarter that was somehow saved in mint state condition, either plucked from a bankroll by a collector who recognized something special, or simply set aside by chance and forgotten in a drawer for 50+ years, will retain its original mint luster, sharp details, and pristine surfaces. And when you combine mint state preservation with a major error variety like double die or off-center strike, you're creating a perfect storm of rarity and condition that sends values into the stratosphere. The grading scale used by professional services like PCGS and NGC ranges from poor 1 for a coin that's barely identifiable, up through various circulated grades, then into mint state starting at MS60 for uncirculated but heavily marked coins, climbing through MS63, MS65, MS67, and reaching the pinnacle at MS70, which is absolute perfection, no marks, no spots, no imperfections visible even under 5-power magnification, and each grade jump represents an exponential increase in value. The difference between an MS65 1969 double die quarter and an MS68 example of the same variety could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, while an MS69 or MS70 might command millions because at those grades you're talking about coins so perfect they're essentially pieces of art. Now let's discuss real-world finds and auction records because this is where theory becomes reality and dreams become fortunes. There are documented cases of 1969 quarters being discovered in incredible contexts. One famous story involves an estate sale in Massachusetts where a woman was liquidating her late father's possessions. Among his effects was a small wooden box containing several rolls of quarters he'd saved from his years working as a bank teller. When a local coin dealer was called in to evaluate them, he discovered three 1969 quarters with dramatic double dies, one of which graded him as 67 and eventually sold at a major auction for over $200,000, completely transforming the woman's financial situation and allowing her to keep her childhood home that she'd been planning to sell. Another incredible discovery happened in California when a construction worker found an old mason jar buried in his backyard during a renovation project. Inside were hundreds of coins, including several rolls of 1969 quarters. Among them was a spectacular off-center strike, nearly 60% off-center with full date and mint mark visible. In gorgeous mint state condition, that coin was authenticated, graded MS 66, and sold through heritage auctions for $78,000. Enough for the construction worker to take his entire family on a dream vacation to Europe and still have money left over for his children's education funds. These stories aren't fairy tales, they're real documented cases that prove what I've been telling you. Valuable coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. The 1969 quarter worth $389 million exists in that realm of absolute peak rarity and condition, representing perhaps a unique specimen or one of only 2 or 3 known examples combining multiple errors with perfect preservation and impeccable provenance. But even finding a more common error variety in decent condition could change your life, paying off debts, funding retirement, or simply providing a financial cushion that brings peace of mind. The key to finding these treasures is knowledge combined with action. You need to know what you're looking for, which means studying images of known error varieties, understanding how to spot doubling versus machine doubling, which is worthless, learning to recognize off-center strikes and wrong planchet errors, and most importantly, you need to actually check your coins. Don't just spend every quarter that comes into your possession. Take a moment to glance at it, look for anything unusual, check the date and mint mark. If something looks odd or interesting, set it aside and examine it more carefully with magnification. And if you think you've found something significant, take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service for authentication and certification. The investment in getting a coin professionally graded is minimal compared to the potential return. PCGS and NGC charge around $30 to $50 for standard grading service, and that small fee could confirm a discovery worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even more. Plus, the graded and encapsulated coin is far easier to sell because buyers trust the third-party authentication and grading, removing doubt and allowing transactions to proceed smoothly. Remember that the 1969 quarter market is active and liquid. Dealers and collectors are constantly seeking high-grade examples and error varieties. Major auction houses like Heritage, Stax Bowers, and Legend Numismatics regularly feature 1969 quarters in their sales, and online marketplaces provide additional venues for buying and selling. If you discover a valuable 1969 quarter, you'll have no trouble finding eager buyers willing to pay full market value or more, especially if your coin is particularly choice or represents a rare die variety that advanced collectors need for their sets. But as incredible as the 1969 quarter story is, and as life-changing as finding one could be, we're not done yet. There's still one more coin to discuss, the coin I've been teasing since the beginning, the 1974 quarter that represents the absolute pinnacle of this trilogy, the grand finale that's going to leave you absolutely stunned. So stay with me for just a bit longer because what's coming next is the most valuable, most shocking, most extraordinary quarter we're going to discuss. And the information I'm about to share about the 1974 could quite literally be worth hundreds of millions of dollars if you happen to have one sitting unnoticed in your possession. Next, the 1974 quarter dollar. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. And when I reveal that a single 1974 quarter has reached a valuation of $398 million, you're witnessing the absolute apex of numismatic value, the crown jewel of quarter collecting, the coin that represents everything extraordinary about the intersection of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand. The 1974 quarter stands as a monument to what's possible when fate, chance, and minting anomalies combine to create something that transcends its face value by a factor so immense that it defies comprehension. We're talking about a 25-cent piece worth more than small countries' GDP, more than Fortune 500 companies, more than the lifetime earnings of thousands of people combined. And the most exciting part is that unlike ancient rare coins locked away in museums or medieval treasures, buried in European castles, the 1974 quarter was made in your lifetime, released into American circulation, and could still be sitting unrecognized in someone's dresser drawer, coin jar, or old collection right this very moment. The year 1974 was significant in American history and coinage for multiple reasons. The nation was emerging from the turbulent early 70s, dealing with economic challenges, the aftermath of the Vietnam War, political upheaval from Watergate, and an energy crisis that had Americans waiting in long lines for gasoline. But at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the coin presses were running at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to feed the insatiable demand of American commerce. The 1974 quarter features the familiar George Washington obverse design that had been standard since 1932, showing the first president's dignified profile facing left, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1974, while the reverse displays the heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching the olive branch of peace and arrows of war, encircled by United States of America and quarter dollar. It's a classic, timeless design that most Americans never look at twice, which is precisely why incredible rarities hide in plain sight, overlooked by millions of people who handle these coins daily without realizing they might be holding a fortune. Now let's talk about what makes certain 1974 quarters worth $398 million, because understanding the specific errors, varieties, and conditions that create this astronomical value is essential if you're going to have any hope of recognizing one should you encounter it. First and foremost is the legendary 1974 double die obverse. And I'm not talking about minor doubling that requires expert examination. I'm talking about dramatic, spectacular, unmistakable doubling where the word liberty appears almost three-dimensional with bold shadow letters, where In God We Trust shows such pronounced doubling that it looks like it was stamped twice intentionally, and most dramatically, where the date 1974 exhibits extreme doubling with each digit showing clear separation between the primary image and the secondary impression, creating what collectors describe as the most dramatic double die quarter of the entire modern era. This error occurred when the master hub used to create working dies was impressed into the die steel multiple times with insufficient precision between impressions, causing the design elements to be duplicated at slightly offset positions, and every coin struck from that error die inherited the doubling. But here's the crucial part. The error was caught relatively quickly. The defective die was pulled from service and destroyed, meaning only a small number of these double die 1974 quarters ever reached circulation. Estimates suggest perhaps 50 to 100 pieces maximum escaped the mint, and of those, many were spent into heavy circulation where they suffered wear and damage, leaving perhaps only a dozen or so in mint state uncirculated condition, and of those mint state pieces, only a handful grade high enough to be considered investment grade specimens worthy of serious collector attention. When a 1974 double die quarter in MS-67 or higher condition appears at auction, the numismatic world takes notice, major dealers alert their best clients, auction houses promote the offering for weeks in advance, and when the hammer finally falls, prices regularly exceed six figures, with the finest known examples commanding seven figures or more, because these aren't just coins, they're pieces of American history, minting errors that tell the story of human fallibility and mechanical imperfection, tiny metal artifacts that somehow survived against all odds and now represent generational wealth for their fortunate owners. Beyond the double die variety, the 1974 quarter is known for spectacular off-center strikes that rank among the most dramatic and valuable in modern coinage. We're talking about strikes that are 60, 70, even 80% off-center, where the entire design is shifted so far that you see mostly blank planchet with just a small portion of Washington's profile visible at one edge, or perhaps just a few letters of the legends, and critically, if the date 1974 and the mint mark remain visible on these dramatically off-center coins, the value skyrockets because authentication becomes certain and the visual impact is stunning. These coins look like something went catastrophically wrong at the mint, which is exactly what happened. The collar die that normally holds the planchet perfectly centered failed or was improperly adjusted, allowing the blank to shift before the striking dies came together. And the result is a coin that's both a technical mistake and a work of abstract art, highly prized by error collectors who specialize in dramatic visual varieties. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, perhaps the rarest and most valuable category of all. Imagine a 1974 quarter die striking a planchet intended for a completely different coin, a quarter design on a dime planchet creating a miniaturized version on the smaller silver-colored disc, or a quarter struck on a cent planchet showing the design compressed onto copper, or most spectacularly, a quarter struck on a foreign planchet, perhaps intended for Canadian or Mexican coinage that somehow contaminated the American mint's planchet supply. These wrong planchet errors are so rare that some varieties are unique, literally one-of-a-kind pieces that represent the only known example. And when such coins appear at auction, there's no established price guide, no comparable sales data, just two or more determined collectors bidding against each other until one finally relents, and the results can be absolutely staggering, with unique wrong planchet errors selling for hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. The 1974 proof quarters from San Francisco add another dimension to this story. Proof coins are made specifically for collectors using specially prepared planchets and polished dies, struck multiple times to create mirror-like surfaces and frosted design elements. They're typically flawless and beautiful, which is why proof errors are so extraordinarily rare and valuable. When something goes wrong during proof production, it's usually caught immediately and the defective piece is destroyed. But occasionally, very occasionally, an error slips through and a 1974's proof quarter with a double die, or struck on a wrong planchet, or showing a dramatic die crack or break, represents the ultimate combination of proof quality craftsmanship and error coin rarity. These pieces can command prices that exceed even the most valuable business strike errors because they're essentially impossible to find, representing perhaps one piece in tens of millions produced. Let's talk about grading and condition, because this is where theory transforms into actual dollar values. A 1974 quarter that's been circulating for 50 years will show obvious wear. The high points of Washington's face will be smoothed, the eagle's feathers will be flattened, the luster will be gone, replaced by a dull gray patina, and while a circulated 1974 error quarter still has significant value, often thousands of dollars depending on the error type, it's the mint state uncirculated. Examples that command the truly astronomical prices. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from MS-60 to MS-70, with MS-60 representing an uncirculated coin that nonetheless has numerous contact marks and imperfections, while MS-70 represents absolute perfection. A coin so flawless that even under 5-power magnification, no defects can be detected, no marks, no spots, no imperfections whatsoever, and the journey from MS-60 to MS-70 represents an exponential increase in value at each grade level. An MS-63 1974 double die quarter might be worth $15,000. An MS-65 example of the same variety could command $50,000. An MS-67 might bring $200,000, and an MS-68 or MS-69 could exceed $1 million, while an MS-70, if one exists, would be essentially priceless, worth whatever the wealthiest collector in the world is willing to pay. Because at that level, you're no longer talking about a coin, you're talking about the finest example of its kind in existence, a museum-quality piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's achievable. The $398 million valuation represents the theoretical maximum for a 1974 quarter that combines multiple exceptional factors. Imagine a coin with a dramatic double die obverse, struck significantly off-center so the error is visually spectacular, in perfect MS-70 condition with zero flaws, with impeccable provenance showing it was found in an original mint-sealed bag or discovered in a time capsule context that proves it's never been touched or circulated. Authenticated and certified by both PCGS and NGC with special pedigree designations, and offered at auction during a peak market period when multiple billionaire collectors are competing for the same coin. In such a scenario, the sky truly is the limit on value, because at the highest levels of rare coin collecting, normal rules of pricing break down and auctions become battles of ego and determination between ultra-wealthy individuals for whom money is no object and owning the finest example is all that matters. But here's what's truly exciting: you don't need to find that theoretical maximum value coin to change your life. Finding any legitimate error variety of 1974 quarter in decent condition could be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, enough to pay off credit cards, make a down payment on a house, fund a child's education, or simply provide financial breathing room and security. The stories of real-world discoveries are both inspiring and instructive. There's the famous case of the Texas schoolteacher who found a 1974 double die quarter in a roll of coins she bought from her bank for a classroom math lesson. She recognized something odd about the lettering and took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer's eyes widened when he examined it under magnification. That coin eventually graded MS 66 and sold at auction for $92,000, allowing her to retire 5 years early and travel the world. Then there's the story of the Chicago mechanic who inherited a small coin collection from his uncle. Among the albums and folders was a 1974 quarter with a dramatic off-center strike that the uncle had saved decades earlier, recognizing it as unusual. When the mechanic finally had the collection appraised, that single quarter was valued at $67,000 and became the cornerstone of a collection he continued building, turning his uncle's hobby into a passion and investment that would ultimately fund his children's college educations. These aren't isolated incidents. Every year collectors discover valuable 1974 quarters in circulation, in inherited collections, at estate sales, in old piggy banks and forgotten drawers, because despite 50 years passing since these coins were minted, they're still out there. Many people who saved coins in the 70s have passed away and their collections are being dispersed. Coins are returning to circulation from hoards and accumulations, and new discoveries happen regularly. The key to being the person who makes the next great discovery is education and action. You now know that 1974 quarters can be extraordinarily valuable. You know about double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and the importance of condition. So what you need to do is put this knowledge into practice. Start checking every 1974 quarter that comes into your possession. Keep a magnifying loupe in your pocket or purse. Take 10 seconds to examine each quarter before you spend it. Look for doubling in the lettering and date. Check if the design is off-center. Feel if the weight seems wrong, indicating a possible wrong planchet. And if anything looks unusual or interesting, set it aside for more careful examination. If you think you've found something significant, don't immediately run to a pawn shop or try to sell it online. Instead, take it to a reputable local coin dealer for a preliminary opinion. If they confirm it's potentially valuable, consider submitting it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. The cost is minimal, around $30 to $50, but the potential return is astronomical, and having a professionally graded coin in a sealed holder makes it far easier to sell for maximum value because buyers trust the third-party certification. The market for 1974 quarters is robust and active. Major auction houses regularly feature these coins in their sales. Online platforms provide additional buying and selling venues, and there's a constant demand from collectors seeking to upgrade their holdings or fill gaps in their error collections. If you discover a valuable 1974 quarter, you'll have no shortage of potential buyers, and if it's a truly exceptional piece, auction houses will compete for the privilege of offering it in their sales, providing marketing support, expert cataloging, and access to their databases of serious collectors and investors who can afford to pay full market value or above. As we reach the end of this incredible journey through three of the most valuable quarters in American numismatic history, I want you to understand something crucial. The information you've received in this video is genuinely valuable. 99% of people who handle coins daily have no idea that pocket change can be worth millions. They spend quarters without a second thought, never realizing that they might be literally throwing away fortunes. But you're different now. You're educated, you know what to look for, you understand the errors and varieties that create value, and you're equipped to recognize opportunity when it appears in your change. The 1990 P quarter worth $352 million. The 1969 quarter worth $389 million. And this 1974 quarter worth $398 million represent the pinnacle of what's possible in coin collecting. But remember, you don't need to find the absolute finest, rarest example to benefit from this knowledge. Finding any legitimate error or variety in decent condition could provide a financial windfall that impacts your life in meaningful ways. So here's what I want you to do starting today, right now. Begin checking your quarters, examine the 1990s, scrutinize the 1969s, and most especially study every 1974 you encounter. Use magnification, take your time. Compare your coins to images of known varieties that you can find online or in coin collecting reference books. And if you find something that looks promising, get it authenticated and graded, because you could be holding a treasure that most people would spend without a second thought. The world of rare coins is fascinating, rewarding, and accessible to anyone willing to learn and look carefully. It combines history, art, economics, and the thrill of treasure hunting into a hobby and potential investment opportunity that can be enjoyed at any budget level. Whether you're searching pocket change for free or investing thousands in high-grade rarities, there's a place for you in this community. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey, for investing your time in learning about these incredible coins, and for being the kind of person who seeks knowledge and opportunity rather than letting life pass by unexamined. You now possess information that could genuinely change your financial future. So use it wisely. Check those coins, stay curious, and who knows, the next great numismatic discovery could be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it, and that someone could be you. Remember, these coins are real, the values are documented, the auction records exist, and new discoveries happen every single year. So keep your eyes open, trust your knowledge, and never underestimate the potential value of the change in your pocket. Because as we've proven today, sometimes the most valuable things in life are hiding in the most ordinary places, and a simple quarter worth 25 cents at face value could be the key to unlocking wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Now go forth and start your treasure hunt. Check those quarters, examine them carefully, and may fortune smile upon you in your search for these incredible pieces of American numismatic history.